welcome to another episode of the Husky Pawdcast, NUTV's conversational podcast, where I am joined by three guests every episode with a topic of their choosing, from food to life lessons to kangaroos. Whatever they want to talk about is welcomed here. Today, I am welcomed by Ella, Claire, and returning to the show is Lawrence. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Pretty
We're
well.
doing well.
Yeah. I officially hate the fall. I admit it. I know I've tried my best to like it. I know there are some fall fans in our club, but I just don't understand it.
Wait, okay, didn't you have a pumpkin spice latte yesterday?
Yeah. Did. It was my first pumpkin spice latte and it was pretty good. And I do like the seasonal stuff that comes out of the fall. I like Trader Joe's has this pumpkin squash ravioli that is, I just stockpiled that in my freezer. It's incredible. So I like that. I like the holidays of the fall, but I don't know. It's the dread. You know, it's like I feel like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
It feels like exciting.
Wait till you get to winter.
It's suspense in a good way.
See, I don't like the winter, but at least I know like the days will get long. Like it's going to get better. Like once you're in it, you're in it. The fall is like, it's a losing battle.
That's a crazy take. I have to disagree. I feel like fall is the most nostalgic season.
Exactly. The holidays, I get to see family more in the fall than I get to see any other time. Is also a great time to spend with friends because like schoolwork, as a kid, schoolwork didn't always pick up that much yet. But you also have a bunch of organized activities: apple picking, pumpkin picking, trick or treating.
The weather's just also
back to
nice.
school festivals. Yeah, and the colors are pretty. Well, we live in the Northeast. I don't know where you grew up.
Yeah, no, I'm also from the Northeast, so yeah, the colors are nice. But no, the weather. The weather's nice too, but also it's like flu season. I'm so like fighting off a cold.
Oh,
Are you a glass half empty kind of person?
No, and that's the thing is like I'm an optimist person. I just don't. I feel like fall brings out the negativity in me. I know it's like the first couple of days of like any like cold you get, I feel like is worse than like the worst day of it because you just know it's just going to get worse before it gets better.
I just take shots of Dayquil and NyQuil intermittently.
Do you
throughout the fall? Like,
oh no, when I feel cold coming on, like there was a time like last winter, I had a cold. I just on clockwork, I finished a bottle of Dayquil.
Do you celebrate
throughout the week?
Do you celebrate
like
Christmas?
A day.
No, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I like Christmas.
So don't you think fall is like a preview of like, leading up to Christmas kind of thing?
Sure. But I mean, well, at that point, that's winter though, right?
Okay, but like fall is until like December 20th.
I will say it gets people in the festive spirit. It's like I was incorrect to say I don't understand it. I get the appeal of why. I just don't like it.
Have you ever made a leaf pile?
And just dove into it head first? Not for a while. Maybe that's it.
As a kid, the fact that I could stand fully upright in a leaf pile and not see over the top, mildly terrifying, but also like fun.
Crunchy leaves.
It was a great way to bond with my brothers.
Do you like Thanksgiving?
Rarely we did it.
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday.
Okay, how do you not like fall then?
I feel like you're saying you hate fall, so you just have a bad season.
I feel like you're not embracing your inner white girl enough.
Yeah. I need to get my sweaters. I need to get my pajama pants out. I don't know. I also don't know like what to wear. I feel like everything I put on is like wrong.
Shirt and jeans.
I have an Uber Eats scarf you can borrow.
I actually could style you for the fall. I feel like fall's the best because you can layer.
Yeah.
Like there's so much more potential.
It's so cute.
And also it's better for all body types because I feel like you can find something flattering no matter what you like dressing like.
Okay. Are you guys like the spring? I feel like the spring's kind of underrated.
Okay, so like
fall
growing up, I said I liked the spring, but now you still get the chills of winter during March, and it's just like theoretical spring is gone. And then April is rainy, and my birthday's in April. It's just rainy, or you're out doing stuff, and you can't really like enjoy it and stuff because everything's budding, yes, but you're coming out of the cold. You're not like building up to it. So and then May, like everyone's going away because it's the end of semester or end of school, and I just slowly have liked spring less and less.
Okay, yeah, I'm the opposite where like I've liked fall less and less, but I'm liking spring more and more. I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe when we're jaded grad students, we'll have the same perspective. But I feel like fall movies. Like my favorite movies are all fall rewatches.
I will say, once like all of a sudden it's like every November, December, you think like you're through movie season, and there's like a batch of, you know, at least like a dozen that come out of nowhere.
Well,
I remember the Holdovers.
My favorite
last
movie
Thanksgiving
came out.
and
Yeah.
Christmas
such a good movie.
releases.
My favorite movie came out in the fall.
Wait, what is it?
Poor Things came out like November 21st. Why are you
I
laughing
knew
at me?
I knew it was going to be Poor Things.
Why are you? Well, yeah, that's
No,
my favorite movie.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm enjoying the conversation, and I get giggly when I'm enjoying stuff. And I was just like, I called it.
No,
Sorry, I didn't mean to make it weird.
I haven't watched Poor Things.
I haven't watched it
It's
either.
like-
Me
it makes
neither.
me feel
You
out of
haven't watched
any TV.
Challengers.
I haven't watched
have watched
Challengers either.
Challengers.
But like that's like saying you haven't watched.
I haven't
No, I
watched
disagree with
either.
that. I feel like Poor Things is so experimental, and well, I obviously haven't seen it.
I can respect the
but
fact that it's experimental.
I heard from my roommate that it was misogynistic, and then I heard from my friend
It's
Emerson.
absolutely
it's-
misogynistic.
Oh,
but
That's part of the point.
that's
I think.
not. Yeah, right.
like,
but that's not why I
purposely,
like it.
intentionally.
It's just funny.
Okay. Oh, so you hate women? No. Sorry. I'm not trying to get you canceled right now.
We haven't
No,
even
like,
gotten to the first
'cause
topic
you-
yet.
You
It
know
was
what?
the kind of response that you make because you're friends with someone and
Yes,
they know
that's-
you're joking.
That's
We
what it
love
is. Don't cancel
everyone
Lawrence.
here.
It's
we
a
love
compliment,
everyone here.
actually.
It's,
You know
it's like
what?
the ribbing.
Yeah, I hate.
I'll
I
smear
can't
your
say it.
name because you know I don't.
You know
mean it
what?
genuinely.
I don't hate women. I, in fact, love Emma Stone. I think she did an amazing job. And when I was
In Poor
watching the
Things.
Oscars and it was between Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone, I cannot tell you how loud I screamed when Emma Stone won.
Ooh.
Okay, so routines. So I've just been thinking a lot about, I've always had time management as a priority. Or I wouldn't say I've struggled with it, but it's something I've had to put a lot of focus and time into.
Mhm.
And I remember for a while, I was someone who needed to sort of like block out everything in the day, have a very kind of constant routine every day. And it made things orderly, but it kind of just didn't give me a lot of room for being flexible or kind of trying new things. And now I'm kind of in a complete opposite stance where like I'm, you know, scheduling major things, but for the most part, just kind of going in every day more open and not necessarily having a routine. And I think there's been sort of pros and cons to that. So I was kind of curious to see, you know, do you guys have, you know, a daily routine? How strict do you follow it? Is it something that you think is important to you? Is it more important to kind of, you know, give yourself more free time to kind of explore things? Which I see you nodding, so I feel like you might
I
have something
follow
to say.
my routine to a T. I have spreadsheets. I have note apps. I have a schedule that I have alarms. I have a schedule that I follow every single day. So one of my spreadsheets is like my entire semester schedule. Like every assignment I have to do that semester. And so I'll put like what date I'm going to start it, what date I'm going to finish it, what class it's for, what kind of assignment is it, what's the assignment called, and then any other notes that, yeah. And then I have this sticky notes app on my laptop that says every day what I'm doing every day and what time I'm doing it. So today I woke up and on my calendar, on my little notes app, it said 10 a.m. I have to write this brief for a freelance job I do, and I said I would do that from 10 to 10:30. Then from 10:30 to 11:30 I would make food for the week. Then from 12 to 1:30 I would help my friend Armand do his shoot. And now I am here. So I follow that schedule to a T every day. I wake up on weekdays I wake up at 8 a.m. Actually, that's when my alarm is set. I always wake up before my alarm, at least 15 minutes before. So I always have a routine. I almost always eat the same thing for breakfast every day. I've actually been getting tired of it. I bought something new today, but I eat waffles, or one waffle with some yogurt on top and bananas, and I do that every day. And life is beautiful that way. I shower at the same time every day. I leave at the same time every day. It's beautiful, and life is so much easier that way. And I like the fact that, like, especially with spreadsheets and like notes app, I can cross things off and feel accomplished.
Mm.
So yeah, I think a routine is how I live my life, and it makes it's things like going to the gym, like things I don't necessarily want to do, but like I want to because it's healthy for me. Like if I didn't have like a routine or like a notes app like that, I would never go to the gym.
Wow. So you feel like overall it's like reduced your stress.
Oh yeah, and like if you were to watch me like putting all this stuff in my calendar, like once like a day is over, I'll put in the next day. Like my last thing is usually from until like midnight, and then I'll cross it off. And then no, like I put like the books I'm gonna read. Like when I read before I go to bed, I put those in and what chapter I'm gonna read
Wow.
and stuff like that. I also have spreadsheets for every book that I read. So once I like get through everything in the day, I put the next one on, the next day on. So like right now I have today through next Sunday on my calendar.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That's intense.
When, excuse me, if you have something, sorry,
Bless you.
Not when he's drinking. You can't make a laugh while he's drinking.
No, that's very impressive, Lawrence, that it's so regimented. And I wish I could relate, but I just fundamentally cannot.
If you were to like watch me putting in all my schedules and my spreadsheets at the beginning of the semester, you would like your mind would be so boggled. But I love it. I love spreadsheets.
Okay, that's an admirable quality, I feel like. People need more order. On the flip side, we have a family friend whose nickname is Chaos, and I am more like him, where like fly by the seat of your pants kind of person. And I'll just remember that I have things, and I like to write it down and cross it off. Like that's satisfying to me. But if I schedule out my life, I start to feel very trapped.
Yeah,
like
I'm the same.
Yeah.
If I tell myself to do a bunch of things, I suddenly don't want to do them because it feels like a restriction.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel as fun anymore.
Right.
But I feel like it's also about like liking what you do, because like I have so much going on. I'm a student, I'm a freelancer, I'm a TA, I'm a tutor, and I'm an EP for NUTV, and I'm new staff for Huntington News. So I have a lot going on.
And a campus celebrity.
And a campus celebrity.
Maybe that can be a topic for next time, because I want to understand why I'm a campus celebrity. But
you know everyone.
You're
I
awesome.
actually don't. It's quite embarrassing because I'll walk into a building and someone will go, "Hi, Lawrence,"
Okay,
and I
then
just don't
everyone
know.
knows you.
Yeah, I want to know why. But anyways, what was I saying?
Well, it seems like
No,
you
you're
make a
like,
good
you fill your
impression.
days very intentionally.
Yeah,
so
I
that
have
they're
a lot
fun.
to do, but you have to like what you do to like make it worth it. Like I don't necessarily like my freelance job, but I get paid. So that's what fulfills me. I like being new staff, and I like being an EP, and I like being a TA. So those aren't like, and I like most of the time I like my classes. This semester's a little dull, but you have to like what you do.
Yeah. No, I respect that. I think you fill your days up with things that you actually want to do, and like you make room. That's your way of making room for the fun things. My way is by not planning them and just like going on a whim.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm curious, like when it comes to things that you have to do but you don't want to do, kind of how do you tackle that? Do you want to plan that out in advance, or just kind of wait until you have time to do it and you'll get it done?
I think that I think it depends on who you're doing it for, why you're doing it, and how much time you have to do it. So like I have an app I use to like make sure I do certain tasks during the day, and so like I'll map out different tasks I'd be willing to do on that, and if not, if I can't get to them or if I don't want to do them, I'll move them to the next day. But like I always do at least one task that I had set out to do in order to feel accomplished, but also I'll like vary if it's a task for someone else or if it's a task for myself. And so like what you were saying about you'll push it off or you want to push it off. There's a level of accountability there and like personal character, I think. Like I signed up to be like a film screener for a friend's film festival. I can't put off watching those films indefinitely, like I would working on a craft project. So I have to account for, okay, I haven't worked on these past couple of days. I have to now take accountability or fuck out. And I'm not going to do that. But so my question is, when you make those decisions, how do you weight the accountability, the impact, and the responsibility?
Yeah. No, that's I mean, I definitely find it way easier to prioritize when I have responsibility to someone else.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something like agreed upon before, like, okay, like that is not moving.
Right.
And like, I will have that almost be like priority A, and then everything else will be like before or after it. But there's also, you can fall into the pitfall of thinking too much about other people's stuff and not having the time for your own self. So again, it's like striking a balance, but a mistake I made for a while was kind of giving everything the same amount of weight, which is like the most debilitating, soul crushing thing. Like even just like, you know, going grocery shopping, having that be like a super high priority thing. So,
maybe this makes me a bitch, but I am the complete opposite. I always do things that I need to do for myself before
You have different priorities.
Yeah.
And so long as you make people aware of that fact, I don't think it's you being a bitch or even you being selfish. I think it's you knowing what warrants your time and knowing what makes you happy, but also like how you can live your life.
I used to like be, I used to give people things like I felt like I was of service to people a lot more than I am now. And I feel like now certain things have happened in my life where I know my worth a lot more.
Right.
So I do those things for myself before I put my mask on before I help others put their masks on.
Right.
No, absolutely.
That's a good way to look at it too.
I feel like that's something that I've been learning recently as well, is like putting your own mask on first, because specifically being raised like as a woman, I know this doesn't relate to your experience at all, but like being raised as a woman in Utah, where the culture is like very LDS or Mormon, you're kind of raised to put other needs before yours, especially like needs of your brother, needs of your father, needs of the men in your life. So I feel like for me, it's harder to not live up to my word when it's like a man asking me to do something, because I've been taught. This is so unrelated. But
this is really relevant. And like even to someone who's like not been raised with those responsibilities or that expectation, you could still see it seep through other societal aspects because you're a woman, or because you may be in an undervalued role.
Yes.
Because you don't have experience, or because it's just a social expectation for you.
Right.
Like as a friend, we never really negotiate boundaries as friends when we initially start out as them. It comes later. And so, which you would do it in a romantic relationship, but we don't always consider how the world interacts differently based on how we're all like raised. We just go into the world largely, I think, when you first start transversing it, with an expectation that people have the same set of morals or codes or that you do.
Yeah.
And so
then you come off, you realize you and someone else have completely different expectations. You're like,
and it's like, do I negotiate my own? How do I negotiate respecting each other's while going forward? And part of setting routines when they impact other people is establishing those boundaries and establishing those expectations. But you have to do it verbally, and you also have to be conscious of it. So sorry to speak over you when you were bringing up the
no,
but I just wanted to like brief that. And I guess I take it you're like relearning how to negotiate them now that you're in a different environment that has a different cultural expectation.
Yes.
See, here in Boston and in NUTV, we love women. We love
specifically
women.
Lawrence, despite what I said earlier.
I love women.
This is a character arc in real time. I think you're back to zero, my friend.
Well, I mean, it doesn't conflict with anything else you've said tonight, I don't think.
No, we know you love women, and women love you. I speak for all women.
I especially love Viagra.
That's what they call me. I don't know who they are, and I wish they'd stop, but...
We're not calling you Viagra. That's a hard boundary. No annoying nicknames.
No, it was a joke I made, so it's like I'm the they in this case.
I'm the they too.
You're the they that's gonna continue calling
It's
me
the
Viagra.
royal we of
That's okay.
NUTV.
You can call me Viagra. If a straight man called me Viagra, we'd have problems.
Yeah.
So like,
Okay.
you know,
You're in the club.
hey, hey, baby girl.
I want to be hey baby girl, not by any romantic partners, but by like best friends only.
Yes, I agree.
Because
With
it's
that.
not creepy then, and it's not like expectations then. It's just like,
There's nothing like being hit on
Riveting.
by your girl best friends.
oh, it's the best.
like being literally like them objectifying you to your face is my favorite thing.
But they do
Oh,
it
I
in a
love
way
it.
you like because it's
love it.
a level of
Exactly.
camaraderie, and it's because they love you.
yes.
It's great.
As a gay man, when I'm with like women, straight women, and we're like friends, like I love being like not intimate, but like there are certain things we talk about that like straight women would never talk about with straight men
No.
unless they were like partners, and like we just talk about it so openly. That's the perk of
I
being
forget
gay.
which
True.
of my friends are straight women because I'm friends with so many queer people. So a lot of it's just like talking the same and then having to recalibrate when they like bring up one thing here or there.
Right.
Those are quite some noises you're making with your chair.
No, wait, can you guys hear me when I like move my head?
I just keep
I
swiveling.
feel like
So okay,
can't
at the
sit still.
beginning, and I think it was maybe your arm or whatever. It made like some.
No.
No, but you're
Okay.
good. It's fine. Like that'll be whatever. I can edit it out. But like I don't know what. I thought there was like an earthquake happening, and it was just like
Do we have like minor earthquakes and New
This,
England.
it definitely wasn't an
there's
earthquake.
been like
it's just
two
because I'm
earthquakes in
fidgety.
New Jersey this year.
There
No,
was
like,
an earthquake
I
in
feel
Peru
like I could
when I was
hear
there.
ooh.
so much like inside of my body. Like I could hear the blood moving. And I was like, they
Did you
can
know
all
there
hear
are
my blood
rooms
moving.
where you can hear if you stand in them, you
Yes.
can just hear your heartbeat, and you can't stand in them for too long without like mildly going insane.
Yeah, I think like the longest record, someone was in there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was like the most excruciating thing ever to do.
I feel like I'd either zone out or pass out in one of those rooms.
That's a hobby.
Zoning out or passing out, because I'll do both, and
didn't
people
do
will
that.
see my eyes like turn back on when I come back to the surface after zoning out, and it's like really weird for them to talk to, both for them to see and then for me to like tangentially experience. It's kind of funny. I don't know if I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable with it or laughing because I don't know how to process it.
Listening to your
Bit
own
of both.
heartbeat, that's quite the hobby, isn't it?
That is
Thank
quite
you for
the segue.
for the segue, Lawrence.
A new Edgar Allan Poe short story to be written in the modern era.
True.
Claire, you wanted to talk about something called hobby hopping. I
Oh,
think this
yeah,
is relevant to everybody.
It sort of relates back to your topic of schedules and habits. So like to preface like where I had become interested in discussing hobby hopping and the intersection with happiness as the concept. A couple of years ago, I went to this program called Great Books, where you like for a week live on a college. This was back in like high school. You live on a college campus and you read a bunch of works related to a specific topic. And the first topic I ever went to Great Books was we were discussing the topic, what is happiness? And by the end of the week, we had determined that happiness is fleeting and an abstract concept, and most people are just content. And you can have varying levels of like bliss or unhappiness or like levels, variation thereof. But a lot of people just strive to be content with a lot of their life. And I pick up hobbies semi-regularly just because I'm bored. In high school, I picked up jewelry making. I picked up drawing in middle school. I do short stories. I picked up crochet a couple years ago. I picked up cooking. I'm looking to get into leather working. I have pieces of leather in my dorm
Wow.
with the tools just waiting for me to get there. Same thing with cosplay. I have a half-finished like Twi'lek headpiece sitting under my bed. And I just got into it to, one, keep me busy. And I'll like devote maybe half an hour each night to a different hobby or a different obligation in order to keep me ticking and keep me moving forward. So I both feel comfortable with myself and feel like I'm accomplishing something each day, even for myself, on top of like doing stuff for work, which would be career-wise, or doing stuff for friends, which would be maybe attending a club meeting or even this. And it has established that level of contentness and a level of being comfortable with myself, which is what I established of being content in a way that I think I could enjoy living for a long time. But I'm also curious to see what other people think of establishing either like if they do hobbies or establishing their own version of contentness and what it means for that outlook to influence how you walk through the world.
I'm kind of going to play devil's advocate on what I said before, but
Okay.
like, I think hobbies for me, like if I devote X amount of time to hobbies, I feel like I'm restricting myself, which is the complete opposite of what I said before. But I also feel like I don't really have hobbies. I have things that like official things that I get into. Like
Mhm.
one could categorize being a freelance reporter as a hobby. I would not, but that's kind of how I fill my time. But the one hobby that I do have is I love watching planes. I hate getting on planes, but I love watching planes. I know all about like the different types of planes. If you were to say, "Oh, I got on a Boeing 737," I'd be like, "Yeah, that's so cool." Have you ever been on an Airbus 380? I know all about that stuff. So I love watching planes. Sometimes I go to like the wharf or wherever I can see planes taking off. Sometimes um, I can see planes outside my bedroom window sometimes. So I'll like look, I have the flight radar app and I'll go on and see where the plane's going or coming from and how high it is in the sky.
That's really cool.
My grandma does that. That's
Really?
so cute. Yeah, that's so wholesome. Is it like a very restful hobby? Is it a way for you to unwind?
Yeah, it's like I was actually doing it just before we started this. I was like,
I love that.
oh, there are planes going into Atlanta right now.
But that still establishes a level
yeah,
of contentness
and
that makes you feel fulfilled.
I flew on a total of 10 planes this summer. So like I was on the app all the time being like, oh, where's my plane coming from? Like, oh, where's it going to next? So yeah, lots of traveling. I don't like getting on planes. All 10 times I was scared, but yeah.
That's still cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think I really like the idea of like differentiating pure happiness and contentment. And this is something I think
It
we
was a
even
very
talked about.
interesting course.
Yeah. What was it called again?
So the program was called Great Books,
Mhm.
and each semester was like a week long, and you could like do. I think it had max 7 semester. I did the one at Great Books Amherst College, so I lived on Amherst College for a week,
Okay.
and then I did one in Ireland actually, and that's the first time I ever went to Ireland, and I got to like live in Dublin dorms and like go to a class in Dublin. Not in Dublin dorms. I got to live in Trinity dorms and go to class on Trinity campus for like a week, which was really
Oh,
cool.
that's awesome.
Was it
But-
gorgeous? Sorry.
It was stunning.
Oh,
And then I went back there for co-op for 6 months working for Hot Press, and I got to like revisit some of the spaces in Dublin I went with on my course. And it was if I'm not navigating on my own, I don't know where I am.
real.
So I have no idea where I visited with my family because we took like a week vacation there before the week they dropped me off for the course. But I got to like it was nice to reestablish myself in that space. Not wholly relevant, but
Yeah, no, that's
subject
awesome.
nonetheless.
And I think like experiences like that like just makes the lessons you learn like
It
resonate
does.
even more.
It creates a fondness for the lesson even if you don't like it, or even if you weren't as interested in like say this story,
Mhm.
you still I think it's how I learned like growing up in academia was largely about cultivating I think a lot of it was cultivating a fondness for learning itself and how you learn, because I had great teachers, and I think that's why I enjoyed courses like that. But you don't just have fun. It fosters fondness for trying new things. It's part of the reason why I like getting into new crafts too, because I like figuring stuff out. And I think it makes me treat life as an adventure
Mm.
in and of itself always. And I deeply appreciate how that shaped me as a person.
Do you feel like you have so many hobbies? Do you feel like, oh, I didn't get to do that today? Like, is it like you like, not like you failed, but like, I don't know. Do you ever feel like negatively about it if you don't get to do something?
A little bit. I haven't been able. So I keep a log on my phone of how often I can work on the Ayla Sakura Twi'lek cosplay. So I can like log how many hours I've done it. But I just have I've been working on the head tails because they have 2 head tails since July, and I'm upset because I won't have worked on it for like a week and a half or so. But have been working on other stuff like the film festival. I became director of programming this year because I did it last year, and he liked how I reviewed films. It's a friend from middle
Oh,
school
wow,
who
congrats.
started it. What?
Congrats. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. And so like I'll release the films to other screeners, or we'll talk about ratings for some of the films. And then like I'll work on Blackburn with Sarav, And right now we have started editing, so maybe I'll devote time to that. But because I have so many projects in the works, I will always feel resentment for the projects. I don't think I'll always feel resentment necessarily. I'll feel disappointed in myself for not finishing them or for moving on too quickly. But I know that I'll always be able to return to it. One issue is like the cosplay doesn't have a deadline. Like I'm not preparing it for a specific con. It's just a matter of excitement finishing it. So it's a matter of completionism that I want to accomplish for myself to say I did it. And so it being not finished at all is a roadblock to that. But I also respect that it's a measure of, sorry for like the long response, but it's I've largely begun like coming to terms more and more as I settle into my own skin of like checking in with myself and recognizing, hey, I've still done all of this. And so as annoying as it is to like spy under my bed and see the head tails just sitting there, I've gotten into the habit of like patting myself on the back and be like, hey, it's still there for the next morning. If you wanted to take it up then.
Yeah, it's like having these like ongoing projects, it makes it so almost like you're saying, like life can be an adventure. Like, that at any point you can like turn to that.
Right. It's an investment in continued living as well. I think people have difficulty with mental health in different ways. And I think if I ever like go down a dark path, it's because I wouldn't be comfortable with myself anymore because of either decisions I've made or how I've treated people. And so treating myself is just as important as treating other people, because how I treat myself as a person is how I hope I treat other people. So learning how to talk to yourself with care, I think, is a large thing. And so like this goes back to like the lessons imparted on me like by other stuff. I don't know if I'm making wholly a lot of sense.
No, you totally are.
Treating myself like nicely through the projects is a way to keep myself content and way to keep myself peaceful and move forward.
Yeah, you're almost like doing something for yourself.
It's
like
self-maintenance.
It's self-maintenance. I think it's a form of self-love as well. Ella, do you have any hobbies right now that you're working on, or is this just a big part of your life in general?
No, I think that you were talking about, like, when you were saying self-maintenance, I was thinking self-care as hobbies. And I feel like I see self-care in 3 categories, which is mind, body, soul.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like mind, I will do a lot of writing or reading. So writing poetry, which I haven't done as much as I did in high school. So there's like that guilt of, where it feels like it starts to feel like homework at a certain point, but it's something I love doing. So I've been trying to get back into it. And this summer I filled up an entire notebook with poems of just like every day I would make myself sit down. And for me, it had to be disciplined because if you like wait for artistic inspiration, it might not come.
Yeah.
So every day I was like at 10 p.m., you sit down, you write a poem. It can be terrible. And then you go to bed and like, that's it. So I've been doing that for kind of my mind. And then for body and soul, I've picked up yoga recently, which, yeah.
How's that going?
I'm the least flexible person on the face of this earth. So it's painful, but it's really fun. And I feel like it's perfect because I've been working on co-op. So I have a 9-to-5 and my joints are so crackly.
I know. I really
it's
should
embarrassing.
start going to yoga.
It's so embarrassing. But because like I will come home and my poor roommates will see me like in front of the TV just doing cat-cow, which is a very weird yoga position. Just like trying.
It's like the first main yoga pose. I mean, I haven't done yoga, but I've done a lot of just like stretches in general, and that's always like a very very good one. It's
such a nice one for your spine to like alleviate some pressure. But like that's how I kind of approach hobbies now that I'm in college. In high school, I saw them as things to collect on an extracurricular chart for my resume and to get into school. So now it's like reclaiming them.
Yeah. I would submit to writing contests in high school. And as someone who wants to like go into writing as like an industry, either for like TV or for personal or like just like creation of stories.
Yeah.
It's now sort of a chore. I write for school when I'm in classes, but writing short stories is a lot harder. Sometimes I'll submit to contests in order because they'll send me prompts and then I can write that. But I'm so out of practice otherwise. So yeah, guilt again. But Someone once, I think I saw this online, that we're always like the child we were as we are, but we're just like holding our own hands now. So we just
That's
have to like
so
walk
cute.
ourselves through it again.
Okay, wait. I saw something similar that was like, I think you become the person who would have saved you when no one
I did see that
did.
too. It's all variations of that,
yeah.
but
Exactly.
some people turn bitter, and that's unfortunate. And I hope they meet either someone who can walk them back, or they learn how to do it on their own. Not everyone's the right person for that. But I deeply appreciate getting to meet new people who we can walk in hand with our inner selves or inner children together with. But also, I hope they didn't
Wait.
like mess up the sound.
You're good.
No, that feels like it lends really well into what Lawrence is gonna talk
Yeah.
about. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take your job, Jonas.
Yeah,
And
no,
actually,
I should.
that's my new
I'm
hobby.
retiring after this episode. I've been coughing.
No,
You know,
you
this
are
is
here to stay.
No, you're
We
an amazing
appreciate
host.
This is thank you.
Everyone shout out
Thank,
Jonas.
thank you so much for like having this opportunity to talk. It's a really, I think conversations like these is a really cool way to bond with people, but having it as like through a creative process too is a really neat way to share stuff in ways you might not have before.
Thank you.
You created a welcoming environment.
I'm glad. No, that was the goal.
Don't graduate. Stay another
No,
year.
please stay.
When are you graduating?
Actually, please fail all your
I'm graduating in
classes.
June. I'm like halfway
Jonas,
through my
this is
program.
betrayal of the highest
That's what
order.
I'm saying.
Yeah, so I just need to stay.
You should be put on house arrest in the NUTV office.
Pull a Thomas and just stick around so that I can point at
I'm
you
so
and be
happy.
like,
So
you
much
don't
of
go
like the
here.
people who have graduated have continued to stick around. I'm going to refer to them as the old guard, so we don't have to like name any specific names.
The veterans.
But like, no, but seriously, they stuck around. They brought life into the club. They're really friendly,
yes.
and they make it a really welcoming environment for new members, whether they be freshmen or not, to come in. And seeing you guys stick around even after everyone's graduating shows that there's really is a community at an NUTV. And it can be a scary first to get into.
Yeah.
But like, I consider NUTV one of my hobbies or one of the obligations I enjoy.
At this point for me, it's like it's like in front of my classes, which is
Right.
probably like not good like all the
But-
time. But I mean, I'm like learning more and I'm getting like
No,
just much more, meaningful experiences.
Fuck
from it.
classes. Live, love, NUTV.
oh my God, we just had that on a shirt. Can that be the next sweater?
I feel like
Good
I have learned more about filmmaking in NUTV related projects than I have from professors.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the veteran members or the old guard are so helpful and they don't talk down to you and they take time to teach you how to use things. I feel like professors kind of expect you to learn on your own,
Mhm.
and I'm not that guy.
Especially like media screen studies major, it's great for theory behind stuff,
Yes.
like conceptual theory or decoding films and TV. But to actually learn how to use filmmaking stuff, it's like I know there's a film
Northeastern is the
production
place for
major,
that.
but like there's there's an intro to film production class, and then everything else is like I'm in a combined major, so it's also a little different because I have a lot of the electives that would be filmmaking I have to not take so I can do my combined English major. But so like I have limited options to get into filmmaking experiences, and you don't want to like take a risk and take the wrong class.
Yes.
But NUTV has allowed me to be more looser in what options I do take for classes wise, because I trust other people to bring their passion projects forward and provide experiences for me to like learn those tricks of the trade elsewhere, or provide like opportunities or resources, or check this out, I think you'd be interested in this, like bring people forward to other projects too.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there's something about learning from someone who is your age or just like 2 to 4 years older than you, you know?
It makes me really excited to possibly ever go into actual film industry. I know it wouldn't be as
Yes.
close-knit as this, but
It'll be as like seamless as it can be from like a student org into like a professional setting.
hopefully.
We sort of started touching upon this in the last topic. I think this is one we're all very excited for. So Lawrence, if you want to go ahead and preview yours.
So we're doing another topic about love. And so my specific question and topic is like, if you're a single person and you're doing your everyday life, but you're like, I want to find a boyfriend. I want to find a girlfriend. I want to find a partner. Like one way to do that is dating apps. And when you go on a dating app and someone asks you what you're looking for, and like I'm on dating apps right now and I'll ask people and they'll be like, I want a boyfriend. I was like, what does that mean? Like, what do you want in a person? Do you just want to call someone your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your partner? Like, what do you want exactly? Because there are specific qualities you should want in a person and should not want in a person. And like, I'm not telling you what those should be, but like they should be specific to you. You shouldn't just be like, I'll take anyone who comes my way. So, but you also don't, like, some people don't have the ability to be alone for a certain amount of time. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really important to have. I know what you mean by some people who can't go without being in a relationship because they need, I think, someone to mirror them or just someone to spend time with as a default, which is not always the best option. But as someone who does deeply value their private time or like alone time, I think having a good set of expectations for a person you want to spend time with, romantically or otherwise, is always a good idea. It's sometimes nice to have people who challenge you conceptually or in other ways. Sometimes it's not nice depending on how they do it. And knowing you have agency in relationships is also really crucial. So I think you have to be somewhat comfortable to know what you want and how it complements yourself in order to get like a satisfactory experience out of it.
Yeah, it begs the question that comes up a lot is like, do you need to feel complete as yourself before you go out there? And I think on one hand, I think anybody is ever really complete, and I think it's okay to like figure things out with somebody. But also at the same time, like people need to understand that like, you know, you're doing something with another human being who also has their own insecurities and their own vulnerabilities and their own problems as well. And you shouldn't just only be thinking about yourself. So I think the biggest lesson I've learned is no matter what, you're always in a relationship with yourself. Like it doesn't from the moment you're born till when you die, and even maybe after that, like that is the one, relationship you're always in. And I think a lot of times you see people like they're always need to be with somebody, they can't be alone, or they're always looking to kind of date somebody or distract themselves from that. It's like they don't have a good relationship with themselves,
No.
or they've just never taken the time to
It's
like
hard.
date themselves. And it's a really hard thing. But I think like that is the start point. And it's funny to see like a lot of the times, and kind of trying to go back to your central question of like, is it something you should be actively searching for love? I hear a lot of the times it's like they end up like not giving up, but they're fully content with themselves. Then all of a sudden they like meet their person and like they get married in 6 months and like they're perfectly happy. So there is something about that there.
I think that like at some point in our lives, we were all independent. We all were content with ourselves. But then as you grow older, like you do start getting into that kind of stuff. And then you're like me and you were in a relationship for like a year and a half or 2 years or whatever. Then like you get out of it. And like it's hard to like go back to that place of like not having someone with you every single moment of every single day. And we've talked about this. There were issues with my relationship, but it like you're not with that person every day anymore, and it's like hard to keep going just with yourself. So I am on dating apps, and like I feel like I catch feelings a little too quickly, more quick than I should. I'm working on that, but sometimes men really suck. And
Retweet.
so
Mood.
men really suck sometimes, and like the way they act and the way they present themselves, like it's like, oh, I could feel like I could talk to this person for X amount of hours, and then things just stop. And I hate men sometimes.
I think largely like I think I would attribute, well, I don't have the same experiences as you do, so correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of it's like the large emphasis on like being in a relationship, or how our society is structured physically and socially and culturally for a partner. That's part of what prompted me to go on dating apps. Like like it started out with me being willing to go on dates with people. The first date I ever went on, it was just like open. We got food. We went to his house. We watched an episode of The Owl
You went
House.
to his house.
Well, I had given my location to a friend. It was like that weird meme-based dating app freshman year that people were searching. And I was like, why not? I don't remember what the name was.
This is
But-
the first I'm hearing about this.
It was so weird, and like the icon of the app was like Doge, like the
Of
dog.
course it was.
And we didn't really talk. We like barely talked, and then it was like, up. We finished watching this episode. We've both finished our food. Okay, date's over. And it's like, what?
That's why I don't like food dates, because
And
once
then
the food's over, it's done.
Well, no, I've been on food dates where that's not happened, but it was very much like I wasn't into it. Sort of, he was like flirty before we had met up, and then it was like awkward when we did meet up, and then he just like left me on his like front porch to walk back to the T station in the rain, and this was like at the end of the hill. It was literally the last stop of the Heath Street line. So I had to call my friend because I don't wholly remember the way back either, even though it was a short walk. I had to call my friend, walk myself back in the rain, and then hope the T comes before, because it also looks like a sketchy area.
Oh, that is a sketchy area.
Right. So it's
This
like,
was date
behavior.
one.
this was date. Then I didn't see anyone for like until I went on co-op to Ireland, and I told the story before the podcast started, but I was at a concert. I'm dressed up as I usually am, so like fun earrings, Silly Symphony's skeleton dancing jean jacket, and I have crochet to do because I was working as an editorial intern, and I would go to concerts and review them. So I crochet before the act starts, and then take notes on my phone during the act as I enjoy the show. And they look over like, "Oh my god, are you knitting?" It's like, "It's crochet actually," and then stuff developed from there, and that was a lot healthier. But I was hesitant to get into it because time restrictions, and I didn't know what I wanted out of a relationship. But there was an expectation eventually that I would try to do a relationship. And this person was nice enough and interested enough and really sweet that I was willing to try it out. And we wanted different things in the end, and I was going back to the States, so it sort of fell apart from there. And we pushed for different things, and I think they went a little quick. I think I was too drawn back. But largely, I'm also used to living on my own. And that can conflict in trying to find a partnership. Because it really, for all that we romanticize the idea of romance itself, I think we forget that, like you said, that there's another person. I'm talking a lot, but
No, keep going. This is great.
I think we forget that there's actually a physically other person. It's not just this idealized end all to completionism. It's you have to put in a work. It's a lot of hard and messy work. And I've tried going on dating apps since. I had a second date yesterday that I really liked with a person. But I put on my Tinder app short term, open to long, because I also expect like by the time I'm going to graduate in a year, I don't expect to stick around wholly. And so as much as I want to meet new people, and enjoy life, because I've talked about enjoying life as an experience. I don't know if wholly a partnership is what I'm looking. A definitive partnership is what I'm looking for out of dating right now. So it goes back to like goals and stuff. What do you want out of a relationship? What do you want out of a person that you spend time with and dedicate a lot of emotional labor and emotional investment in? And what can you give in return to that?
Yeah, 100%. You brought up the dating app stuff because like that's a whole world that's like foreign to me. I've never once used a dating app.
Don't start now.
Don't start now.
It depends on your like orientation too. Like being asexual and possibly aromantic on a dating app's weird.
Yeah, we were just talking about this.
Yeah. Anyway, continue.
No,
let's
I was
start with
gonna
your point
ask.
and then transition to other
I was going to
stuff.
ask about it. Like, do you feel like it's been a wholly good thing? Do you think it's easier to find people knowing that everybody there is also looking for the same thing?
Yes and no.
I feel like Tinder is a very interesting app. I'm only on Tinder and Grindr. I feel like the other apps require way too much work. Like Hinge is so much work.
I've heard some weird stuff about
yeah.
Hinge and Bumble.
I love Hinge. Okay, I don't love Hinge. I deleted it in 24 hours because I got anxious. But like theoretically, Hinge is so messy because people like,
Yeah.
okay, anyway.
Tinder is just so easy. And the only thing you really have to figure out, the first thing I say is, hey, what's up? And then they're like, nothing much, you. It's kind of dry.
How do you come
but
up with icebreakers? Because I ended up. Sorry.
Some people have interesting stories, and like some people are willing to talk and like tell you about their day. And I am willing to tell you about my day. I'll be like, yeah, I just went to the gym. Like, no, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, blah, blah, blah. And some people match your energy, some people don't. And then eventually I'll ask them, so like, what are you looking for on Tinder? And I do not look at profiles because most of the time besides their pictures, most of the time their profiles are lying. I looked at one profile of this dude and it said long term, open to short. And I asked him what he wanted. He wanted a hookup, a quick hookup. He called it a quickie. And I was like, that's not what your profile says.
See, I don't think girls do that.
Yeah. So Tinder is very easy and very hard at the same time because all you do is swipe and you match with people. And I've also noticed that like once I download the app and there's like so many people in my area that I'm just like swiping on, it'll take like 2 weeks for it to like bubble up because like I'll swipe for like a week and I'll be like, why am I not getting anyone? And then eventually it just gets so overwhelming that you're talking to so many men and I'm like, which Matthew was I talking to?
I do not match enough for that to be an option.
Dehumanizing to me.
Yeah, it's
is.
really superficial.
And there's something I last year downloaded Hinge because there was a bet with my roommate that if I downloaded it, she had to download it. And I really needed her to find love because I needed her to stop talking to another man and find a different man to get over one man. So I downloaded Hinge, and within like one weekend, I had to delete it because it really just made me sad. I can't look at people as a still life photo and get to know who they are. Like I feel like there's so much to be said about dimension and movement and how people carry themselves in the world that you can't see. And it feels like you turn them into a commodity and you're literally swiping through the options. And I don't know if this is like psychological evidence or anything, but I feel like I read something recently about how dating apps, the way they're structured, always makes your brain think, oh, well, if this one doesn't work out, there's another one that I can just keep swiping on. And therefore, people could find someone great who like fits their needs and fits their type. But then they're like, but there might be someone better because I have this app with endless options and things to scroll through. And I think that's where it gets kind of amoral to me.
I think like, for me, it is about personality, but it's also about looks. And the first thing I will look at is looks, because if I look at your picture and I don't think you're attractive, I'm going to swipe left on you. Because if I can tell from the very start that like something is going to be missing if we are ever together, like it's a swipe left for me, because you can't get to know a person's personality by their profile, but you can get to know their looks by their profile. So that's the only reason on Tinder that I like go for looks first.
Yeah. I'm even subject only to like aesthetic attraction visually. I'm susceptible to that too. However, I've noticed with like friends, if I start to love a person more, I start seeing their features in a better light.
Yeah,
and so it's not a reliable means if you like start seeing, if you're more interested in dating in real life, or not real life, that's the wrong way to phrase that. If you're more open to dating someone you already know, not someone who's sort of like a fresh slate because you're only approaching them via the view of, oh, your prospective partner, but first approaching it from like, oh, I know you and I think I know you well enough to want to try this with you, then I don't think appearance is as large as how much you've already love a person for, which makes it hard. Idealistically, I think I'd be like friends with whoever I partner with up first.
Yeah, no, and
but that's not really feasible in this day and age.
Yeah, and I think, to be funny, if I were to date someone at NUTV, I would welcome that.
It would be me.
I'm also always down for like a queer platonic relationship, like long term.
My brother looks just like me, so you could go for him. He's the man version.
Oh, does he swing my way?
No.
Okay, well,
he's also in a very loving, committed relationship with a woman.
And then obviously you're joking.
But I want to get back to your point. Yeah, like the idea of like being friends first. I think, and it also goes back to your point of the problem with just seeing a photo. It just feels just very dehumanizing. I feel like just falling in love with someone who was a friend first and you never really thought about beforehand. That's like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a more authentic form of love.
I think it's more stable.
It's more stable, and because I feel like when you're actively doing like the dating app thing and you're looking for like characteristics, it's like, are you really trying to connect with a person, or are you just looking for things that could be valuable to you? I think in a way, like you obviously want to be with someone who you see the value in them and how they can add more to your life. But at the same time, again, like it is that person too. And I feel like that should be the foundation, as opposed to, I think nowadays, a lot of times it's like more focused on like, not necessarily always the superficial characteristics, but the characteristics as opposed to the person.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And it seems like, a lot of times, like some of the happiest marriages, relationships, they started as friends. My parents, they were originally friends, and they've been, I think this is their 30th anniversary is this year. So I think there's absolutely some truth to that. So
I would also like to say, for this entire semester so far, I've come into the office every day with a new man story, and I know I've been annoying people, and I'm going to shut up about it. But
No, we love hearing it. I love hearing it because I love the drama.
I love complaining about men.
I think
honestly, the tea is nice.
It makes me sad
relax.
because I think that you deserve to be loved.
Yeah,
it kind of goes back
true.
to, there's a difference between needing love and deserving to be loved. And I think everyone fundamentally deserves to have experienced love, whether it's platonic, whether it's like aromantic, asexual love, or if it's romantic love, sexual love, whatever you want or are looking for, you deserve to be fulfilled. And I wish that your stories were, oh my gosh, I had this amazing date with this amazing guy who did this amazing thing, and not, here's another character that we all get to laugh about. And it's fun for comedic effect, but it's also kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I am also more picky these days, just because when I started my first relationship, I was also on Tinder, and I was just kind of swiping and looking for any man who was like into me before I was into him. And I kind of just took it as it came. And now I'm just a lot more picky, and men are not the best creatures in the world.
I think you reserve the right, though, to be picky.
yeah, I mean, this is the person, like, potentially, if you're looking for like marriage or a long-term relationship, like this is the person you're spending a portion of your life with. Like, be picky.
Don't freak me out with like long-term stuff.
Yeah, I have commitment issues. So let's back up 500 steps. But no, I see what you mean. It's someone that you are inviting to see like so much of your life with.
That's true, at least.
Even if you don't share it entirely, but you have to be picky. But that also, I feel like that goes back to, are you being picky about their physical attractiveness?
Well, it's a question. It's be picky, but what are you being picky about?
Yes.
Right.
Like, are you being picky about, like, I call it the numbers, like income, height, IQ was one I heard recently. Like, someone's like, it has to be a certain range of IQ, but not higher than them, which is so ridiculous.
Oh, that is what?
Was it a man? Was it a man?
And that feels like something a guy would say.
It was something on like a Facebook Reels. There's some like podcast. I think it was probably some like, it was like three guys sitting around like a couch.
That sounds so like a guy would.
I'm pretty sure. I honestly can't remember, but it's like, or are you instead like being picky about like, is this person kind? Are they compassionate?
Yeah.
Do they show up for me? Like, do they ask about my day, and do they actually care about what's going on in my day? Like, that's the stuff.
It is
do not negotiate on. Like, that is a non-negotiable.
It is so easy to like ask people about their day and to care, and so many men just don't. But my friend went on a date yesterday, and she texted me about it, and she said, "Oh my God, it was a horrible date." And I was like, "Oh my God, why?" She was like, "He wore the wrong shoes." I was like, you cannot say you had a bad date because he wore the wrong shoes. That's just because you didn't like his shoes.
If he like spat on your shoes, that's a horrible date. But
so does everyone know like the match your freak new kind of trend of like, does someone match? You don't know. Is somebody going to
TikTok and Instagram audio?
Yes. Okay. So I feel like that is kind of embracing your weird qualities and like finding a romantic partner who like matches your freak. So going back to like being yourself, honoring your true authentic self, and how I feel like dating apps, you want to show your best qualities. You don't want to show your freakish or weird qualities off the bat.
Yeah, like there's a difference between wanting to learn like communication skills and relationship skills. Like I think there's always things to learn, but it shouldn't be at like a sacrifice of your personality. Like that should you should be you. And if somebody doesn't like you, like just know like that's not a reflection on you or of them. You might just not click with somebody.
And a lot of dating profiles are like heavily sanitized.
Yes.
And it's hard to like connect with people based off that. So I have to make insinuations about someone who might go to mass art or something. Like, oh, they might be more likely to be into this stuff because they're in an environment where it's more standardized. Knowing that, I have pictures of me on my profile with fun earrings. Like I have like spirit levels that I'll pop off and use on shoots to make sure the camera's level. Or like I'll use to hang up posters. I have a picture of me wearing those, eating green beans. And it's just like weird enough.
I love that.
That you sort of just have to match it or match it in like the fun, oh, this person's doing this sort of energy in order to gauge it. And like I also have in my bio, one thing I would find hot about you is if like you would watch kaiju films with me. Or no, it wasn't, I don't think it was like one thing I would find hot about you. It was like some get to know me sort of thing. I like match with me if you like kaiju films and Triceratops plushies. That's what I put in mine. Just because I recognize that we do sanitize ourselves a bit, and it's hard to get to know personality based off like it's literally a social resume, which is like really weird.
Yeah, and then I was gonna bring up like there is an aspect to it, especially when you're actively looking, for love or looking for a partner. Like there is an aspect to it that feels like it's like you're almost like interviewing for a job.
Actually,
like,
that makes me feel better about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why so?
Like,
Co-op prepared you for this moment.
No, actually, yeah, because now that you've said that it's like a job interview, now I feel like less pressure for a date. Like, or I think if I think about that actively, it's like, okay, we're not in a relationship, but I'm getting to know you. And if it doesn't work out, you'll find someone along the other lines. And we just weren't the right jobs for each other.
Yeah,
Which is not the best phrase.
This isn't the right position for you.
I like that.
Now that you guys are saying it, my profile is quite polished. It's all pictures in suits or me in Peru.
That's gonna give you like frat bro vibes.
But I would like to close this out by saying, if you're not a man, I would hate. My DMs are wide open. Now we're up to you.
So we're going to go for the epic finale. Ella, I'm really excited for your topic.
Okay, thank you.
So if you want to introduce it.
Yeah, well, speaking of getting ghosted.
Oh.
Whoa.
I wanted to talk about, I know, I thought of it and I was really proud. So you guys had to hear it.
There's part of me, sorry, I'm not to interrupt, but there's part of me wondering, like, are we going to end up going back to the love conversation? Do we have for all the first two topics?
We have to.
It has to.
Would you be in love with a ghost more than you'd be in love with a man?
Depends if the ghost is nice to me or not.
I feel like with my commitment issues, like, yeah, because then I don't have to think long term with the ghost. If I leave the house, can he follow me? Probably not. And he's probably in a really nice suit, like an old timey, like Victorian suit. He's probably got drip. So I would be in a relationship with a ghost. Ghost, my DMs are wide open.
Yes, I'm looking at Thomas.
You can't see it, but off camera, Thomas is in a suit looking at his phone and not paying attention.
I meant an old Victorian suit. Thomas, if you died, we're going to cut that. Okay.
All right. That was completely my fault for setting on that weird tangent. But please, you have the floor.
One that asked me if I would date a ghost?
One of us was.
Please, I will.
Thomas is
you
indeed
have the floor.
A paid actor.
I promise the three of us will not interrupt you. So.
Okay, no, I believe you guys. No. Should I start from the top or just
go for whatever context you need to give?
Speaking of getting ghosted, I wanted to talk about ghost stories because I've always been a little bit fascinated about how people tell stories, why they tell stories, and I like spooky things. It's almost October, which is the best month, and fall's the best season. Mm-hmm. Just to loop that back into the beginning. He
Jonas
looks
looks
so
so
I'm never
angry.
gonna live that one down.
Please cut to the camera that shows Jonas at that
I think we should do
moment,
like a
please.
video where we indoctrinate you into fall.
Make you go full white girl.
Get your pumpkin spice latte and bring it to school every day.
I can't cackle on
We'll
camera.
find the again. I was gonna. The person that I went on a date with yesterday, we met. The first conversation we had was our equal hate for the fall and love for the summer.
She's perfect for
No.
you. She's actually perfect for you then.
But sorry, continue.
Okay,
Keep it
no,
short.
that's okay. That's okay.
You guys have like changed me. Now I'm doing everything about the love conversation. But
No, it's
go
the
ahead.
best conversation to
It's-
have
it's a-
objectively. But
Very drama filled one.
it is. No,
Or
and you
ghost.
get to know a lot about a person when they're
That's
talking
true.
about love. Basically, I was just doing some research into like the earliest ghost stories, and basically in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, the ghost stories would be about haunted houses, like the sounds of chains being rattled, and they were usually didactic. Like they're based on warning people that if holy in your life or you're not baptized, you're going to come back as a ghost. And
Whoa.
there's a lot about that of like if bones aren't buried properly, like burial rites was a big factor in ghost stories and early writings. Whereas I feel like more recently with horror, ghost stories are about people who've been wronged
Yeah.
in some way. And I was like looking at how women are kind of notorious for being ghosts, or like more likely. If you hear about a ghost story, I feel like it's more likely to be a woman. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
That's haunting it?
So
A woman that's
We-
haunting it?
Like haunting
Well,
it, whatever
we
it
had
is.
talked about
the
it.
house. You don't
Well,
know?
I
Okay.
never thought about this, but I think I kind of agree with you.
Right?
Like generally speaking, you don't hear a lot of like gender conversation with like supernatural stuff, but
Right.
there definitely is an element there.
So
Sorry, I know you.
We-
I don't think I agree with that. I
That's
think
okay.
it's
I have
always
receipts. No, you go, please.
I'll
Please
shut up
continue.
now.
No, I did not mean to do that to
because it's
silence
what you're
you.
it's what you're exposed to folklore wise, history wise, and interest wise.
I'm also not exposed to that stuff
Okay,
very much,
fair.
but I feel like every ghost story I hear about or see is a man.
Really?
Interesting.
So
I don't know. I'm thinking of Casper.
okay,
I'm
but that's
thinking of like
modern media.
Yeah, I'm
Then I
thinking
don't
more of
know
like oral
anything.
tradition passed
Right.
down ghost
So-
stories.
So with because when you say that, we had talked about you had also. I'm not going to bring up your points for you, but with this past summer, I did a dialogue in London, and the dialogue was documentary filmmaking, and it had been brought up that a lot of how ghosts are perceived are reflections of the times they're
Yes.
and a lot of the haunted ghosts that would pop up around London. For the documentary, linked on my LinkedIn page, but I don't fully remember the name. I think it's like Was Haunted in London. And we interviewed 2 tour guides, a paranormal psychologist, and a medium. Not to overtake your topic, but it was brought up that the ghosts reflect ghosts of each era that haunt a specific area reflect the reason why they haunt is reflected in the era they emerge in.
Yes. Yeah. No, I actually
Sorry,
no.
I had remembered we got into this part because of the women thing, and a lot of like worldwide there are a lot of stories about women. In Japan,
Yes.
there are a lot of yokai that are
Mhm.
about women who have been wrongly killed or who have been like wrongly harassed. In Europe, there are a lot of stories about that as well, between like banshees,
Mhm.
and even in like
in Mexico. Okay,
Mexico especially.
I
yeah.
actually have all of those like covered. That
Yeah.
leads in perfectly what I was going to say.
Mm.
So like the first person I'll tell you about is Okiku, and she is Japanese in Japanese folklore, a servant girl who was harassed by in different cases it'll say like samurai. I think that's a racist like rendition. I think that she was just a servant girl who was asked to there were 10 plates, like 10 Danish plates that were it's basically like fine china in this house that she worked in. And the man in the house wanted to seduce her and was like, be my mistress. And she would say no. And one day he hid one of the plates so that she would get in trouble. And he was like, well, if you don't want to get in trouble, be my mistress. And she was either so heartbroken that she ran and fell and died in a well, That rhymed. I'm sorry. I was not expecting
No,
that.
continue.
Sorry, Okiku. And then or he like murdered her for denying him. And what would happen is as she would haunt him, she would count to 9. There were supposed to be 10 plates and she would count to 9 and she would never get to 10 because she thought like she had lost this 10th plate. And I feel like it's really interesting because in that one, it's very rooted in like the socioeconomic position of this girl, the standing. And the only way for her to reclaim power over this man who tried to seduce her and force her to be his mistress was in death when she could haunt him. There was nothing she could do in life, but she could come back every night and scream and keep him awake. And the story ends with him going insane because she would come back and haunt him. But there was nothing she could do when she was alive as a poor servant girl. That was one that was interesting to me. Right? Like, and there's different ways that it's told, but that was, I think, one of the top 3 stories that come up in Japan about folklore. Going into the European kind of Slavic folklore, there are these things called, I think it's pronounced, and I might pronounce all of these wrong, so don't cancel me, Rikolka, which reminds me, like you said, we were talking a lot about water and women. So these are women, there's 2 ways that you can become a Rikolka, is either you are a virgin who is murdered by a man violently and like, drowned in the water, and then, or you were unbaptized. So a lot of ties to religion as well are what came up for me in looking at folklore is if you are not baptized when you die and you're a woman, you haunt these waters. And either you are a very beautiful woman who seduces men and drowns them, or you're a repulsive, disgusting monster who terrifies men and drowns them. So it also has a lot to do with like beauty and appearance in these female ghosts, like how we discuss what they look like. And it seems a lot about retribution in these stories. And what's really interesting is that these are not the like ancient stories. Ancient stories, it was more that the person who died had committed a sin or that their loved ones hadn't buried them properly. Whereas in like later stories, it was the fact that women, like it was the way for people who've been wronged to come back and get retribution is in haunting.
So something that had come up in like our research on What Lingers in London thing, that was the title, but was this thing called stone tape theory, and the fact that the Japanese ghost Akiku,
I believe so.
She could only repeat the thing that like she had died in terror of. Stone tape theory is that both the paranormal psychology, both the tour guide we had and then the medium we had mentioned it. It's basically where you have enough like intense emotion in an area that it imprints on the physical plane, the physical living plane. And so even if the soul does pass on, there's still like a remnant of the soul in terror or in pain or in anger that lingers there and goes on repeat.
Yes.
And I think, and that pops up in a lot. Like as an English major, I've read a lot of stuff as well as, or like I'll passively hear about it or like listen or watch videos just to keep interested in, and across a lot of different renditions of story, it's the same action repeating. I think both, it's interesting to look at because these stories echo each other across the world of people in vulnerable situations, especially women.
Or young women, or poor women. Yeah.
Like being taken advantage of, and the collective misery that goes into that is intense.
Yes. And that actually brings me up to a point of, I was reading why women might be, because regardless of whether or not you believe in ghosts, ghost stories are real. You know, like things that are passed down and become folklore, these are truth in that they exist and people might not believe in them, but they are tied to places. And actually, in some historical research, people looking to find where like lynching victims were hurt, it's not on the historical record, will look towards ghost stories and find that there actually was some tragic event. Historians will go back and archivists to hear about ghost stories in certain locations to find like sites of lynchings. I saw a woman giving
like
a TED
talk.
Troy. Wait, really? I
so like
know that.
Not like a person, but like the city of Troy, they like had to go through like oral tradition of like Odyssey and Iliad and other
Yes.
stuff. I think ghost stories, as much as they are to like remember and mourn, they also serve as warnings to people who would do
Yes.
those actions again. So they're warnings to people who would be taken abuse of,
Mhm.
like be careful, stay in groups. A lot like how women today are careful. Like I'll share my location if I'm going somewhere new, or if I think someone's in a dangerous area, or I'll go on call with someone. My roommate, whenever she would volunteer at the hospital, and she was on co-op last semester, so she would come back at like 1-2 in the morning via train or bus, and I would have I'd be up till like 4 in the morning because I didn't have a 9 to 5 then, and I'd be her go-to person to call. Similarly, we take these measures to keep ourselves safe. I think ghost stories, especially ones about women, both serve as like, if you do this, if you're careful about this, maybe this won't happen to you, but also to like people who would take advantage of those people.
Yes.
Don't do this, we'll come back for you.
That is
Respect doesn't
interesting.
work. If respect doesn't work or respect's not in play, you take what tools you can to protect yourself.
That is true. No, I think I just really want to quickly cover one point, and then I want to
Yeah.
ask, I want to include you two
Sorry,
in
I
this
sort of-
conversation. No,
I like
no,
talking.
no, this is amazing. I love this. I just feel like if we had a 2-person podcast, we could go for centuries just talking about
Oh my
ghosts
god,
and
I
women,
love that.
and it would
We
be
could bring in like a new
amazing.
folklore story each week.
So the last story I want to tell you about is, I think, the best known case of a haunting woman, La Llorona or Llorona. I don't know how to pronounce it. Right?
Well, that was
Yeah.
a Blumhouse movie a little while back, or
That's it.
The Curse of La Llorona.
Yes.
Is that it?
So basically, in folklore, she was a beautiful woman who her husband fell in love. She was a poor woman. Her
Mhm.
husband was rich and had wealthy means, and his family was disappointed that he loved her.
Mhm.
But they got married, they had children, and then slowly he would come to the house less and less. And then one day she saw him with another young, beautiful woman, and younger, more beautiful woman is important because we should always compare women, always. But
That was
essentially,
sarcastic.
yeah, that was sarcastic. But essentially, like, because like these traits once again kind of pop up in the ghost story, and that's what
Mhm.
struck me, is that so many of these ghost stories are about how the women look and stuff like that. But basically, she is driven to madness because her husband doesn't love her anymore. She takes the children and she drowns them. She drowns her children, and I think
have heard of this before.
yes, and I think that that is the scariest thing that we as a society can like, or we as beings who have evolved to survive can think of, is a mother murdering her children. Like, because as human beings, we have this expectation that we take care of each other and the old protect the young. So I think that that's why she's
Yeah.
a ghost, like a scary ghost. What were you going to say?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's just like humanity. It's not just like the old or the young. It's the infirm, or there are like skeletal remains of people who are like disabled that would be taken care of, like prosthetic eyes dating back like 10,000 years, or like broken bones, or even disabilities that people are still assumed into the community even then. And I think, hey, it's a really learned thing. So I agree with you on the point that for someone to hurt themselves and hurt their loved ones so much because of how much pain they're in, that is one of the scariest stories we have.
Yes. And so the story now goes that she weeps at river, like by the sides of rivers, by the sides of lakes, and she tries to drown other children, or she's always looking for her children,
Oh,
and she's
jeez.
repenting. So it's either that she is stuck in hell looking for her children forever, but I also think it's interesting because it's a warning to children not to go wander by bodies of water, which is dangerous for them. So it's interesting to see how ghost stories become, like, again, warnings,
Yeah,
protective measures.
Yeah, like the trying to teach lessons,
Yes.
but also like there's even more. There's like deeper meanings and lessons that can be pulled from it than just like the simple,
Yeah.
don't go near lakes and stuff. No, I find that stuff fascinating.
No, I was just gonna say, in ancient Greece, there were 3 types of ghost stories. Or ghosts. There's, I'm gonna butcher these, ataphoi, which is those who did not receive proper burial. There's aori, which are those who died young and unfulfilled, like the unfinished business that we see a lot.
Yeah,
And there's biauthanatoi. Okay, whatever. If you're Greek, don't cancel me. Those who suffered violent deaths, including battle and war. And
Okay.
but obviously, as time went on, in Victorian times, women would write more of the ghost stories. And that's when I think, and women got more tied to the domestic sphere
Mhm.
because society's rules hardened in terms of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we see more hauntings of women pop up in the last few centuries, is because women were writing ghost stories. And also, when I think of ghosts, I think of haunted houses most often.
Mhm.
And like women became really tied with like this
Yeah.
idea, this concept of the home.
Wow. Yeah.
But I also, those were the points I wanted to make. I wanted to ask you guys if you believe in ghosts or
Oh,
have any ghost stories.
Fortunately. So I'm going to jump in first.
Yeah, no, go for it.
My approach to superstition is, which isn't, wholly aligned with my religion, because you're not really, I'm Jewish, but there's a lot of stuff that leaves room for agnosticism in my faith, regarding like stuff like the afterlife, or like other ritual practices. You're not really, I'm not going to get into it right now, but anyway, so my attitude towards it is, better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
So be respectful. Maybe follow some local customs because they know their areas better. Keep true to your own personal beliefs, but also don't disrespect others. And in regards to like supernatural stuff, be better be respectful. So with that in mind, I don't know if I wholly believe. I didn't know if I still, it flip flops with believing ghosts. But you know what? Better to err on the side of cautions of the warnings, the stories in part, than not. And then on the London Dialogue, we went to Edinburgh for 3 days. And there's this haunted
Awesome.
vaults tour where you can go to this cemetery where there was a lot of pain and suffering near the cemetery. And then they take you there. Edinburgh's a hilled city. And so all the rich people will live on top of the hills and all the poor people will live at the bottom of the hills. And to avoid going into the poor areas, the rich people built bridges across the city that eventually got assumed into the city. So you can't always tell when you're on a hill because buildings are built around them, or you can't always tell when you're on a bridge because buildings are built around and on them. But there's this one specific area where you can tell because there's an arch and you can go under the arch. Near that arch, there are these vaults. So one of the bridges has a huge amount of vaults in them. And originally they were used as storage spaces for merchants and stuff. Because they weren't insulated, they were eventually abandoned. And then when it became illegal to be homeless, which is a horrible practice because you're supposed to, where are the homeless going to go? One, and two, you're sort of like criminalizing existing, which is not okay.
Yeah, insane.
They moved into the vaults where life expectancy would drop to a year. And because there was no light, it's where all the criminals were. It's where all like dens of prostitution, plague would spread. It was damp. Remember, not insulated. It rains a lot in Edinburgh. And supposedly the vaults became very haunted. So the vault tour took us into the vaults because they were rediscovered and then you could buy them up and someone bought them up for tourist purposes. There was one vault they showed us that was decorated as a Wiccan a meeting space because apparently there was a coven that used to practice there. There was another vault that was not lit very well, and we went in there later, and that was like, I think, opening to a brothel that had existed in that area and there was a whole story with that one. And then the last vault was apparently where the Wiccan coven originally wanted to set up, but there was a bad presence in the room. And so the Wiccan leaders of that specific coven wanted to go in there, banish the presence, and then use it. They did not manage to do that. According to the story, they only managed to contain this presence into a circle of rocks, at which point it was like the tour guide informed everyone, oh, if you want to step in the circle, you have to make sure you remember which rock you stepped over into the circle with, because if you step out over a different rock, you might take it back with you. And so we're all like on the edges of this room. There's like a lamp. My back is to a corner and I hear something like whispering in my ear, and I'm looking to the people next to me. No one is talking. And this is when people are like jokingly standing in the stone circle. And so I don't always believe in ghosts. I don't know what the fuck that was.
That is wild, though.
Definitely didn't like it. Definitely accidentally grabbed one of my dialogues. I didn't know the person very well, so I'm so sorry, but I grabbed it. I grabbed her arm hard when I freaked out. Oops. I let go once I realized what I had done, but I had definitely clutched down a bit too hard for acquaintances. So, and then talking to the medium in that experience, because of our interviewees, he had talked about being haunted from a young age, and like the NUN building in London is right next to, it's in St. Catherine's Dock, so it's right next to the Tower of London, where there were a lot of ghosts reportedly. And he just starts pointing out, once the interview's done, around the room, there's a ghost there, there are 2 ghosts sitting there. You really can't see them? I was like, no, but thanks. I don't feel comfortable being in rooms alone now. But so vaguely, yes, I will believe in ghosts, or I'll be respectful of any possible presence that linger here. I think the world's too big, and I believe in multiversal theory, and I think the world is layered in different aspects, and we can be tone deaf to some of them. So, long-winded explanation, yes, I do somewhat believe in them. Sorry, that was really long-winded.
Lawrence, I wanted to hear your
fascinating.
thoughts before we close this out.
I really want to hear it.
I honestly don't have many thoughts about this. I've never really thought about ghosts. I don't believe in them. I think the concept is kind of dumb.
Fair. That's fair.
Like, yeah, I've never felt a presence around me when there wasn't one.
You've never had like one of those like unexplained experiences where
No,
any supernatural encounters?
no.
Jonas, have you?
I think I've had like nights where like you see a light in the sky
Mhm.
and it like moves in a way that like it's not a plane or anything.
Could be a satellite.
It could be a satellite, yeah. Yeah, I for a while I was someone like I very much tried to like rationalize everything, like there's a logical explanation. Now I'm sort of the attitude of I'm not actively believing either way. Like if suddenly like I wake up tomorrow and there's some headline saying that ghosts are real, like supernatural stuff is real, I wouldn't be surprised. Also wouldn't be surprised the other way. But yeah, I want to look more into these ghost stories, just not only just from the lessons they intend to deliver, but also maybe some of the unintended ones. And I think it speaks a lot. I think it's a good, good way of reading into history and kind of seeing how things came to be and just seeing how stories evolved over time, because we're storytellers, we make films, we write stuff, but for most of human history, all stories were kind of oral stories that were passed down, and studying the ones that survived as long as they have, I think is really, really fascinating. Guys, this was so much fun. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel like we feel very connected now.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you all so much for coming on.
Thank you for having
I really
us.
enjoyed this, as obvious by me not stopping.
No, we love a good yap session.
I
Yap
love
with
talking with you
mics.
guys.
It makes my job easier
Yeah.
too, so I don't have to like.
I'd like to thank you for letting me return. I'm glad
course,
my
you are
presence
welcome
was
back
Thank you for
anytime.
bringing the
Enjoyable.
hottest topic.
Oh my god,
know?
yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
Remember,
Any
guys,
last
my
minute bring
DMs
back to
are
a love
open.
conversation?
What?
And
I said,
Love is
remember,
fake.
guys, my DMs are open.
I thought you said love muffin. And I
Love
was like,
doesn't
where did that come
exist.
from?
My
love
DMs are
does
open, Love
exist,
Muffin.
and it
what?
will find you. Sorry.
Also want to give a shout out to our producers Sarav and Thomas,
Yes, thank
who
you.
have helped out with the shoot this whole time.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you had a good time. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.